This mid-sentence swamp between I and we, there's no way around it. That is a romance trope. And you have to remember, this comes from Cloud, who is of course at this point typically cool. He's awkward at the same time as well. You just can't help but watch this scene here and you have that inner smile or maybe that inner giggle and you're like, oh, that's pretty cute. What's up? It's mlwjrpg and I'm coming at you today with a react video. I discovered this video from a tweet I saw on Twitter a few weeks ago. You'll see this tweet in the video very soon, but the tweet basically said that the story of Final Fantasy VII leads Cloud and Tifa together. Originally, I posted this video on Twitter, but now I have it updated for YouTube with a little bit more content. I put this video together because when I started watching this video, the Final Fantasy VII, a masterclass on storytelling by Vaughn, I noticed a big flaw right away, which I'll explain later, but I wanted to showcase this flaw amongst others that I'll bring up in the video. Vaughn has actually reacted to this video live on his YouTube. I'll link that in the description below so you can go check that out if you need to, but it comes down to this. He did pick up on points that I brought up in the video, and although we didn't agree on everything, he brought up some pretty good points on his end too as well. I think he kind of got lost in the context of really what I was trying to display for him, but that's perfectly fine. Vaughn's a great guy. You can go give him a follow. This video is actually well done. I think I said it several times in this video, as you'll see reference. It's a civil disagreement, no toxicity at all. He's a really good guy, and that's fine. Unbelievable that that can actually happen on Final Fantasy VII Twitter, right? Especially when it starts coming into the shipping atmosphere. It can get a little bit crazy there, as we all know. But anyways, without further ado, we'll start the video and get into it. Recently, I came across Vaughn Coleman's tweet here, and I have to say, it's interesting. Stating that Cloud and Tifa are the canon #Final Fantasy VII couple is not about preference or shipping. It's a matter of understanding their character arcs and storytelling and the game's themes. Their heroes' journeys and character arcs lead them to each other. It's also interesting that you decided to show this scene here with this particular translation, but we'll get to that later. My guy, this is a bold tweet, and I see tweets similar to this often, and I've seen takes similar over the many years. Initially when I see these, I typically just chuckle and I just scroll on, to be honest. But I noticed you linked the YouTube video and this clip was a portion of it, so out of curiosity I decided to check it out. Before we get into the details, I want to say Vaughn's video here is actually well made. I can tell he put a lot of time and effort into it. It's worth a watch for the most part. Also, no one should go hard on him. There is much to disagree with in this video, but there is no need to attack Vaughn himself.
Before we get started, there's only one way to properly review this game. Let's get into it.
Real quick, not bad on the Cloud cosplay, man. You pulled it off nicely. All you need to do is work on getting yourself a wig and you're set.
Over 20 years after its initial release in 1997, Final Fantasy VII remains one of the most iconic, enduring, and beloved stories in video game history. It's achieved an iconic status that very few games can even hope to match. Hell, you don't even have to have played it to know it. Hell, I didn't even play it until a few years ago. Now look at me. Cloud Strife and his iconic Buster Sword. Tifa Lockhart, my wifey, my girl, who I might be mildly in love with. I don't know. Jury's still out on that one.
Okay, you established at the start that you've recently dived into FF7 and you're a huge Tifa fan. That's cool. Tifa's attractive, I get it, and she's a great character overall. This segues into one of my many issues I have with the video. You titled this YouTube video Final Fantasy VII, a masterclass in storytelling. When I read this title, I was looking forward to an objective, complete, and thorough breakdown of the story of Final Fantasy VII. I believe this is a reasonable expectation for any viewer who comes across your video. However, you did end up covering the story of FF7, but you did it with a heavy bias with Tifa. Your tweet says that the story leads Cloud and Tifa to each other, but you entirely disregard most of the critical interactions that Cloud and Aerith have throughout the entire game. The first of many examples is this scene at the torch at Cosmo Canyon. By the way, I have to say overall, I prefer this scene here in OG compared to in Rebirth. That being said, one of my favorite scenes in Rebirth is the moment when Aerith speaks in front of the torch, and the engaging conversations with the other members leading up to it, they're great as well. But something about about having only the party in front of the torch and the more personal conversations one-on-one Cloud has with him, that just hit hard.
Speaking of which, there was a strange one that takes place around a bonfire, where Tifa hesitantly begins to ask Cloud a question, but doesn't out of a strange fear.
Cloud? 5 years ago. No, never mind. I can't ask you about that. Why not? Because you'll change. You'll drift away from me again. Cloud? You really are yourself, right?
What a weird interaction. Oh well, moving on.
I don't get it. You only showed the conversation with Tifa here. You didn't even bother showing any other conversation. Aerith during this scene is experiencing an overwhelming sense of loneliness. After speaking with the people at Cosmo about their research into the live stream and the difficult duties of the Cetra, she is usually cheerful, bright, but all that fades here, and she allows her true feelings of isolation and anxiety to be revealed to Cloud. And so you have Cloud sitting here next to her, and he starts to say, "But I'm here for you." He catches himself and then stumbles his words, and he fumbles with I and we, and then he says we, of course, and then he finishes that sentence up. This mid-sentence swamp between I and we, there's no way around it. That is a romance trope. And you have to remember, this comes from Cloud, who is, of course, at this point, typically cool. He's awkward at the same time as well. You just can't help but watch this scene here, and you have that inner smile or maybe that inner giggle, and you're like, oh, that's pretty cute. Moving along, you also decided to skip across the revisit to the gold saucer entirely. It's worth mentioning that Aerith is Cloud's default date partner for revisiting the gold saucer. This seems to align with the story beats, creating a logical and engaging narrative connection. As the date nears its end, a memorable moment unfolds, the gondola ride, of course, a scene that adds a touch of romance to the narrative. Aerith tells Cloud here that he initially reminded her of Zack, her first love. You did cover the portion in Gongaga where this was explained. However, it's really odd that you completely decided to not even bring this portion up, which is extremely relevant to that conversation, and then also moving forward later in the game. But anyways, she makes it clear with Cloud here that him and Zack are different. In the English version, she says, I want to meet you. In the JP version, she says, Anata ni ayata. In Japanese, she is implying that she is fully committed and intends to meet Cloud's true self eventually. And next, we reach the moment. Let's just let it play out.
And then, it happens.
The most well-known spoiler in the game, possibly any game. Hell, I first heard of Final Fantasy VII through a top 10 list with this scene. Aerith's death, one of the most iconic deaths in video game history, and it makes sense why. Aerith Gainsborough was a ray of sunshine. She picked Cloud up when he was down. She had the most beautiful house in the slums of Midgar where she'd grow and sell flowers in a place where everything else was grimy and run down. She was kind, hopeful, uplifting, and lots of fun to be around with a great sense of humor. And despite seemingly being jealous of each other at first and competing for Cloud's affection, Tifa and Aerith became best friends. And both are such good romantic options that you can understand why Cloud would choose either one, and why the debate rages on all of these years later on who's the better girl. The answer is obviously Tifa though, guys, as I'll explain later. At least for Cloud.
Is it really obvious though? I mean, it's possible, given how you've constructed this video and how you continue to do it throughout, and especially for this specific section here. Let's continue.
We love Aerith. Everyone loves Aerith. She's the party's mage, and her limit break, her healing wind, is one of the most helpful in the game. She's unique as a person and in combat, and when you're with her in combat, you always have that hope that when you're in a bind, she'll come and heal you. And then, just like that, she's ripped from you. Gone. Forever. And during those later rough boss fights when you need that healing wind the most, you'll never have it. That added comfort, that ease, that helping hand has been snubbed out forever. And that's what it's like to lose someone you love. You know, you think of the things they used to provide for you that will never be there anymore, of how they would have reacted to this situation, or what they could have added here and there, and they never will again because they're gone.
Man, this was really deep, very emotional. You were really cooking here. You're right, and you're spot on here. Once someone is gone, these thoughts will always manifest themselves. But here's the problem. Unfortunately, you decided not to show in this video what you just said on display from Cloud. It's incredibly mind-boggling to me that you decided to admit this from your video. Remember, you titled this video Final Fantasy VII, a masterclass in storytelling. And with that tweet you connected it with, you didn't think it was relevant to showcase Cloud showing these emotions during this scene with Aerith. You skipped this scene with Cloud, but you showed the reactions from the other party members. You included that part. And then I believe you only showed maybe, like a couple seconds of the water burial. You didn't even show that entire sequence. Ah, yes, of course. Based on the first minute of this video, I knew this was coming from miles away.
And so, under the high wind, they have a touching moment where she tells Cloud that even if nobody else comes back, as long as she's with him by her side, she'll never give up, no matter how scared she is. And in a beautifully written, heartfelt exchange, Tifa tells Cloud that despite being close with him, there was always a distance until the live stream, when they finally called out to each other. And now, finally, after all of this time, they heard each other's voices. And in this moment, Cloud, in his awkwardness, tells Tifa, "Hey Tifa, there were so many things I wanted to say to you. But now that we're together like this, I don't know how to say them." And she replies, "Cloud, you don't always need words to tell things how you feel." And true to her word, in a moment, we cut to this.
Now, I'm not going to go hard on this section, as this video is already kind of getting lengthy and I don't want it to keep going on forever. I will just say the feelings were never 100% confirmed, and this whole scene depends on affection anyway, which the devs have stated multiple times. Wrapping up here, you decided to show this scene with an odd translation. It's so funny, I've seen this scene with several different misleading translations. One being, "I think we'll meet them there. Yeah, let's go meet them." And the one you used in this video, "I think we can meet her there." I'm not an expert in Japanese, but what I do know is that it's contextual when it comes to pronouns, which means the pronouns in the sentence I and her first being I or the subject. So it was established in the sentence prior when Cloud suggests that he has come to a revelation. When you look at I think, I can find her there. There is no subject change at all. It's only logical that it remains in singular first person. So the direct reference is set contextually from the previous scene. Cloud only saw two people, being Aerith and Tifa. Oh, and by the way, you conveniently cut out the previous scene, omitting Aerith again. But anyways, since Cloud is talking to Tifa and not about Tifa, it is only logical he is talking about Aerith. But no need to take my rough understanding of Japanese to heart at all. I could be wrong. But the 10th anniversary Ultimania confirms Cloud is referring to Aerith anyways, so it's all moot whether or not you believe me. So let's circle around back to your original tweet. Cloud and Tifa being a couple is about preference and is about shipping. You also didn't show many other major story beats and details from this Masterclass that I didn't even cover. There's much more I could have went over, but again, I didn't want to have an hour, 2 hour long video. I just wanted to put together a quick reaction to get across some of the main issues that I had. There is a lot more though. But anyways, all of this goes against what your title implies. Again though, your video is well done and it's generally enjoyable. However, it's heavily biased towards Tifa. It is presented in a way that would force a viewer without any knowledge of the game to think Cloud and Tifa are a canon couple. If you haven't done so already, make sure you do yourself a huge favor and go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I appreciate you and thank you for watching.